Hi everyone, and welcome to another Sunday session with Bright Young Things and York Design Week. It's not actually Sunday, it's Tuesday, but pandemic, so we can't do this face to face. There we are. So this time we're joined by Clinton Lofthouse, founder and creative director of Rebel North Creative, photographer and Photoshop specialist. So we're going to do this session a little bit differently. So a few people have done sort of presentations and talks, and we're just going to have a bit of a casual chat really and see where it takes us. So Clinton, do you want to give everyone a little bit of a background of you, who you are?
Yeah, so I'm Clinton Lofthouse. I'm originally from Bradford. I have been a creative in the creative industry for about, well, I bought a camera 8 years ago, and then I've been full-time for 2 years. So in between that 8 years and that 2 years, I kind of had an in-between part-time creative full-time day job, and then eventually whittled it down to full-time, which is the best thing ever. Working 2 jobs at once is not the best. And then, yeah, and just as I went full-time, I moved to York as well. So that's kind of, as soon as I went full-time, I thought, right, that's it. I can kind of live my own life now, how I want to live it. So I disappeared to York, and then, yeah, just kind of been getting on with things here. It was going very well, obviously, until this pandemic started throwing spanners into the works. But yeah, now I'm enjoying it here.
Do you think if you hadn't been able to go full time, you still would have made the transition to York?
Probably not. Well, no. I mean, it would have been a lot more unlikely, I think. Yeah. Working, yeah, a day job is like a bit of a ball and chain, really. It's. Like I kind of look back and think, I don't know how I did it for that long, because I worked in factories and warehouses and dead-end jobs since school, really. Because when I was at school, I used to be I was very creative when I was younger anyway. But when I was younger, I was just told, like, no, you can't make a career out of anything artistic. You need to work in a factory or work in a warehouse. And that's kind of what I did for 20 years or however long.
That's been such a common theme as well, as we've been speaking to people over the week.
Like being told that they can't do something.
Yeah, especially with obviously the propaganda the government's been putting out now.
It's terrible. With my son, when I speak to my son, because we sometimes chat about what he wants to do when he gets older, and he's a very creative little boy anyway. But I kind of, because I know from my own experience how I need to say like specific things to him. So I just very encouraging, like, you can do what you want. Obviously, I want him to do something like I do, but I'm not going to force him. But it kind of goes that way anyway. Yeah. But I just say, like, anything, and I just kind of giving things like anything you want to do, you can do it as long as you want to do it and you put hard work into it. I mean, he's only 8 years old, so he's just like, he doesn't take any notice. But if I just keep doing that all the time, it's eventually going to sink in at some point.
He's going to remember those things.
Yeah, it's subliminal, I think, at that age. So you tell them stuff and it goes in, but they don't really react to it. But I guess as you get older, because when I was younger, I had my granddad. My granddad was probably the only one who used to tell me to use my art as like something to make my life better. But obviously, there was that many other people around me. And plus, when I got to a teenager, I kind of lost interest a little bit in the art side, as you do when you find about going out and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. But eventually, yeah, it all circled back around anyway.
I think I was always told to make sure you love your job, but it was never sort of made clear to me that your passion can be your job.
Yeah.
I think that's really important.
I was never told any of these kind of things. I guess it's because my parents were from a different generation as well. Like, they just believed, like, they worked in my dad was a wagon driver and my mum worked in an office. So, I mean, I guess they were just told the same thing, and they were always on about security and making sure you've got money and stuff. So I guess that kind of just trickles down to you as well.
I think that was sort of similar with my parents, sort of always sort of factory workers. My mum sort of always worked in shops when we were kids, and of the youngest of 3 kids, the idea of me going to uni was like, I think that sort of generation don't necessarily understand certain things.
Yeah,
and I guess my mum was thinking, God, you're going to have to pay all this money back straight.
Yeah.
It's those little things.
But I think it's also generational, because that's just the way it was back then. Like nowadays, the younger people now have so many options and things that they can do. It wasn't actually really like that when we were younger. You could probably do it, but it would have been a lot harder. And again, there would have been a lot more failures, I guess, because it wouldn't have been as easy to get into those different things. But it just wasn't. I don't think I knew anyone when I was younger who did any kind of creative job.
No.
I mean, maybe if I was in London, then I might have done, but not in Bradford. Bradford's your typical mill town. It's like it was massive in the Industrial Revolution, and then obviously went downhill after that. So there was a lot of poverty, a lot of crime. There was nothing for children to do, and that's why there was a lot of vandalism and things like that. So, and car theft, which there still is, I believe. It was a different lifestyle, really.
Yeah.
I mean, even just moving from Bradford 2 years ago to here, there's a completely different lifestyle change. Can walk around in the night without having to look around my shoulders and stuff.
Have you found your sort of client base? You've had any sort of base Bradford way? Did you have any connections there that have helped you, or
just nothing? Yeah, not really. To be fair, I've never really had a very local client base. It's always been international, and it's been like that from the beginning. If someone did get in touch with me from Bradford for work, they would always try and get it really cheap and try and gaslight me into doing it for them. So no, I never really did local work.
So you've recently gone from freelancer to agency owner.
Yeah.
How have you found that transition? Is that something you always thought would naturally happen?
It was something I always had in my head. Obviously, I thought it would have been a little bit different, because just as when we started, the pandemic hit, so that was like another big wall put up in front of us. But no, it's been quite stressful. But no, it's good.
Oh, good.
It's like the keys to your own kingdom, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we've spoken to a few other people actually, and they've sort of found that clients tend to treat them differently when they don't label themselves as a freelancer.
Yeah, there is a different. Yeah, people come to you as an expert instead of coming to you as a technician.
Yeah.
So like, I mean, I still do freelance work as well. I did a freelance job for an agency like a couple of weeks ago, and just the way they kind of spoke to me, it was different to the way that I got spoke to when I was actually talking to clients as an agency owner. You just kind of labelled a technician, someone who was there to help that person put things together as a freelancer, whereas as an agency, they look at you as an expert and ask for your guidance and ask you for your thoughts and what do you think your advice, what's the best advice for this, and those kind of questions, instead of just kind of basically telling you what to do.
Do you think they treat you differently money-wise as well? Because I think a massive thing, obviously, is how many people get beat down on price all the time, and the value of our work is.
I mean, there is a lot more money in agency work, but I think if you kind of stick to your guns as a freelancer, you still can get paid well. I get paid well more now as a freelancer than I did do in the past, because I kind of know how much I should be making. I kind of stick to my guns with certain prices. I don't let clients say, oh, well, we want you to do this, but we've only got this amount of money, and all those, the typical kind of things that come out with when they want to try and get you to work for them for free or for cheap. I'd say no a lot.
I think some of that maybe comes with confidence as well, once you've been doing it a few years. And
I guess I can actually choose now as well, like if I want to do a job or not, which makes it easier.
Yeah,
to say no. Because sometimes beforehand when I used to say no, I was like, oh no, I don't know if I've turned down that money now. But eventually, as long as you keep on marketing and getting your work out there, eventually something else pops up anyway.
How did you sort of learn about pricing and stuff? So we spoke to a guy called Alec Judson earlier in the week, and he's set up a thing called Intern, which is all about sort of bridging that gap between university and real life. And that's how obviously universities don't teach you about pricing and freelance and that kind of thing. Did you just sort of pick it up?
I mean, I'm self-taught. I went to college when I first started photography, because I thought if I'm going to do it, I might as well get some sort of qualification behind me, and then I got halfway through the first year, and I just wasn't learning anything. I was already surpassed what they were teaching. So I kind of spoke to the tutor and said, "Look, this feels like I'm wasting money," because it was quite expensive still.
Yeah.
Is there any point in me doing this, because I already I can do all this really well? And she said, "Well, to be honest with you, I don't think there is any point you doing it, because the level that you're at is also better than the people who are probably doing degrees as well." So I was like, "Oh, well, that's a waste of money then, isn't it?" So yeah, I just ended up. I think I finished off that first year, so I got a HNC or something. I don't know, something along those lines. But yeah, then I just left.
Yeah.
Because even the tutor said there's no point in me doing it. And again, yeah, they didn't really teach any business skills. It was like, say if I shot a photo of a flower, I would then just have to write this big long essay on why I shot this flower. And to me, it just, I kind of understand what they're aiming for, but I think it's I don't know, it just didn't seem to be helping me progress in anywhere.
It's that balance of sort of doing something conceptual, but then doing something that's commercially going to sort of interest clients and get you somewhere in the industry.
Yeah, definitely. Like if I went back in time and I could go to college again, I wouldn't even do anything creative. I would go and do business or marketing. Yeah. And then
that's a good point, because I think sort of creatives in general, we are creative. It's sort of in our blood, isn't it?
That's what I mean.
Yeah.
You're already creative. You don't need to learn how to be creative. Like I was already creative. I didn't need to learn. I didn't need someone else to tell me how to be creative, but I did need someone else to tell me how to manage money as a business, to work out how much I should be paid, to how to deal with problem clients, or how to even have good communication with clients. And I never got any of that anyway when I was there. I mean, I was only there for a year, but I don't know what else happened after that, but yeah.
It's certainly not something I got in my degree, and sort of setting up Bright Young Things and speaking to young creatives. It's not something that seems to have changed.
Yeah, no, I don't think so, because I speak to a lot of younger creators as well, and it still seems to be the same issues as the other generation had and the generation before them had. Like everyone kind of says, yeah, you have to learn all this stuff yourself, which, well, why are you paying for an education if you're not learning what you need to learn?
Yeah. Thinking you're paying, what is it now up to $9,000 a year?
I think that soon that this kind of old dated school system and university system is gonna collapse soon, because it's all going to be ended up. People are just going to go to online resources. Like YouTube it can be okay, but it's a bit scattershot. But there's a lot of really good education websites now where you can learn photography, learn photo manipulation, learn how to paint even. So I think these schools, because it costs, I don't know about in England, but I know in America it costs like thousands and thousands of pounds to go to college and university, doesn't it?
I think I came out of uni with about 36 grand debt.
Wow, yeah, not for me, that kind of debt. But yes, but then you can join one of these educational websites for £10 a month. So you kind of, and I think these younger people will be growing up with that with those options, and I guess they're all going to go more towards the better teaching and cheaper price.
I think the pandemic will be an interesting one for that, because I think people often think you need to go to uni to learn these skills. Well, actually, you don't. You just need the time. Imagine if you spend that 3 years that you would at uni learning.
Time
you'd learn.
Time is the most important thing. Yeah, definitely. Like I spend a lot of time trying to make my time more efficient and working out what should I be doing and what shouldn't I be doing, just so I've got more time. Because I also don't want to be working all day from when I get up to when I go to bed either. I quite enjoy the freedom of being able to, if I want one day, just kind of go out into the landscape and just have a little adventure. So that was another thing as well. I think that's because I worked in those day jobs, like in those strict 8 till 4 regimes, that when I got out of it, I was like, right, I can do what I want now. So I just, yeah, if I want to go somewhere, I'll go there.
I think that's really important for creators in general. I think sometimes it's not something you can just turn on and off. And sometimes if you're having a bad day, or even if you're a bit tired, or anything can throw your creativity off. And having that freedom to go for a walk whenever you want, or just switch off for half an hour.
Yeah, it definitely does help for sure. Like sometimes I just go for a little wander into York, and sometimes just walking around York inspires me with all the old buildings, and things going on.
I think that's what I've loved. So since lockdown, I've been working from home. Like if it gets to whatever time during the day, I could spend 45 minutes just sat at my computer doing nothing, getting more frustrated because I can't think.
Yeah.
Whereas I can grab the dogs, go for a 20-minute walk and crack on again.
Yeah.
Actually, that's more productive.
Yeah, definitely. And I think that's what a lot of people miss at these kind of strict jobs. I mean, it was bad, but also in a way, it kind of taught me. It taught me how to kind of get on with things when I don't want to do stuff. It taught me how to deal with, because they're very negative environments. I mean, maybe not all those kind of places are negative, but everyone I worked at was very negative. So it kind of learnt me how to build a thick skin, it taught me loads of lessons. Obviously, I wish it didn't last for like 15 years or whatever it was, but 15, 20 years. But yeah, I did definitely learn a lot about it.
I think I was the same. So I worked sort of full-time all through my degree. And I think looking back on it, it seemed like such a slog because I knew it wasn't where I wanted to be.
Yeah.
Even though you're looking for something else, but it taught me all those things of, hard work pays off, and at the end of the day, you've got rent to pay.
And that's the thing, when you're working in those kind of jobs, you kind of know this. I used to think all the time, this isn't where I should be, but I just didn't know what I wanted to do, because at that time I didn't buy a camera until I was 30 years old. So before that, I was one of those people who, like, I knew this wasn't for me, but I don't know what I should be doing.
I think that's where we're going to see sort of universities do full circle. So we talked earlier about sort of the generational thing and not being sort of an option, whereas now it seems like we're pushing that to be the only option. And there's some people going to uni. Like I went to uni first time and did criminology and psychology and dropped out after a year because it wasn't what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I was so pushed down that route because the idea is you do your GCSE, you should go to college and you go to uni.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's realistic to expect somebody at 15.
No, I mean, I remember being 15. I mean, even now, I don't. A lot of the times, I don't. Because I'm pretty much like ADHD. So like, one day I'll be wanting to do one thing, and the next day I want to be doing another thing. Or sometimes it can be 20 different changes of what I want to do in one day. So it's just at 15 years old, it's like 10 times that amount of like craziness in your brain. So.
But I don't think you have to be set. I don't think it has to be set in stone. This is your career path.
No. I think the best way to get on in life is, if you don't have a purpose, which is like you don't have a goal, like if you just kind of do lots of things until you find something what works for you, do that. And then as you go down that path, it won't be a straight path. There'll be loads of zigzags and it'll just keep leading to a different thing. And eventually you'll get to where you should be going. If you don't do anything, then you're not going to go anywhere. Even if you do, sorry. I was going to say, even if you're doing the wrong thing, if you carry on doing it, eventually you'll get to a point where you'll adapt, you'll change, you'll find something new, and then you'll go down a different road.
Yeah, and I think it's all right when you're on that road if that end goal changes.
Yeah, definitely.
You discover new things along the way. And like when I originally went, so I didn't have sort of any art background apart from stuff in my spare time. So to do my degree, I had to go back to college and do sort of a lower qualification. Yeah. And at that point, I didn't know I wanted to be a graphic designer. Yeah. It was only the fact that my course, you spend a couple of months doing different disciplines.
Yeah.
And from that, I then found my goal. I think it's all right for those goals to change. I think some people hone in on, I need to be here in 5 years' time.
Yeah. I think once you kind of know what you're doing, then maybe those kind of goals are good. But especially when you're young or you don't know what you want to do, I think you should just do lots of things. And then eventually you'll find what you want to do. I found, for me, but I also speaking to other people, if they're a bit older when they still don't know what they want to do, is just ask them, what did you used to do when you was young? Because usually what you did when you were young is usually what you want to do when you're older.
Yeah.
That was the same with me. I used to create comic books and draw all sorts of crazy images and write stories and stuff. And then obviously I kind of went back to trying to do those things. Couldn't draw anymore, but then I just decided to buy a camera to use that to try and create things, and then it just kind of evolved from there.
So we just sort of talked about goals. So what is your goal at the moment? What's on the goal board for you?
Well, a lot of it is just basically to try and kind of get Rebel North Creative kind of into a good position. Obviously, want to move more into video content as well, to do both kind of the hero images, but also kind of the video that complements that. And just for me, it's usually getting bigger clients, and then obviously when I get those clients, then we'll start thinking of where else we can go.
When you say bigger clients, do you mean, excuse me, have you got like set names that you want to work for? I remember before, obviously, you said, I think when you spoke for Bright Young Things about Adobe being one of the people you want to work for.
Yeah,
what happened?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm doing a talk for Adobe in next month. Are we in October still? Yeah, so in beginning of November. So I'm kind of ticking off those little ones for myself, but then obviously I need to start doing the same for the agency. I also said, I think I said in end of 2019 that I wanted to do some work for Nike, and then pretty much in January I did some work for Nike. So that one happened quite quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think you've got to have a few little goals, like, because sometimes those kind of goals are more like vanity goals. So it's good to have them on the portfolio, but it might not actually be forward in another party business. So you need like goals on how many maybe clients you want to get in a year or a month, how much money you want to generate per job, and it's good to have a few different goals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those might have noticed my mug, which I chose on purpose.
One Direction.
Yeah, because I'm going to bring it up. So I saw recently you obviously worked with Liam Payne.
Yeah.
So how was that? How did that come about?
I actually know Liam's I think he's the videographer, but he sometimes do the photography as well. He's from Bradford, actually. So we've met before, and I've helped him out on a shoot in Bradford. So Liam's doing, because of the COVID, they can't do real shows. So he brought an LP show out, which is like an online LP. So obviously him and Connor must have been chatting, and then Connor says, "Oh, I know the guy who can create this kind of style of work for you." I think I'm going to sneeze. No, it's gone. So yeah, so I kind of randomly, like one day I was just at home, and Connor rings me and goes, "Oh, he told me what Liam's doing." And then like he just goes, "Oh yeah, I'll pass you to Liam," and not giving me any warning. So I was like, "Hello." So I was chatting him onto the phone, and it's funny because I always get called Clifton by people for some reason, and it's kind of a joke now between my friends, and we all make a joke about it. And the first thing he said when he got onto the phone was, "All right, Clifton." So like, "It's Clinton," and then we both started laughing. And then he said it wrong again. He called me something different. So then, and then he just basically told me what he was doing, what kind of images he wanted, and things like that. And then we had a little bit of a chat, and then I just kind of already knew what they wanted. So just got down to creating the artworks. So Connor sent me the photographs of Liam, and then I edited everything around that photo. So it was basically like just a studio photo of Liam in the outfit behind a green screen.
Yeah.
And then I built the world around that.
Wow. I think there's this sort of idea of, I think especially for younger creatives, or probably me as well, that once you've worked just like a name like that, everything will boom. Like this idea of if you have a post on social go viral, you know, your life's gonna change.
It don't work like that. Every time I think something like that's going to happen, like maybe like this working with Liam, he shared the images on his Instagram and with 22 million followers. I was thinking, oh wow, maybe this is going to have quite an impact, and literally they had hardly no impact at all. Just because it's not my audience.
Yeah.
Like little girls and whoever his audience are, teenage girls and those kind of people just probably don't care about who edited the image together.
Well, there's a hope there, isn't there, that maybe...
maybe someone else see it. But, I mean, it has built relationships with Liam and some of his management, because his management were blown away by it. So,
good.
I mean, that way, one day maybe something will come from that. But again, that could be 3 years down the line, maybe, or something like that. It's not... And I've done these kind of things before when you think, oh, this is going to, like, explode, and then it doesn't. But yeah, it's eventually something will come from it, I guess. Yeah. It could be tomorrow, it could be in 3 years.
So how was the process of doing that? Obviously with the pandemic, if we hadn't been in a pandemic, would you have wanted to do it differently? Would you have wanted to be the shoe?
Well, yeah, I did kind of say to Connor, because he's a videographer, and we were trying to go over the lighting, and I said, well, if you want, I can just come over and do the shoot. But obviously, I think because of the COVID, they were a little bit wary about kind of outside people coming in. So yeah, eventually, he just sent me the images what he took. But I mean, they were good images. Usually, sometimes when people send you images, sometimes the quality is terrible. But yeah, Connor took really good images, so it just made it easier for me anyway to edit them.
Yeah, oh good.
Mm.
So I was having a little stalk of your LinkedIn a couple of days ago, and sort of that you used to do some writing as well, some sort of weekly articles. How did you find that? I think I'm thinking of me being a creative. I'm very visual, and when it comes to words, I just crumble into pieces.
Yeah, kind of
That's
go
something
through
that comes
phases.
naturally, or
Yeah, because I mean, I write for F-Stoppers, but which is like one of the largest photography blogs, but it's kind of a gift and a curse. It's good because you can get quite a lot of eyes onto your work and stuff. But again, yeah, writing. If I'm not inspired, it's even harder than creating an image. Like just getting those words out your brain onto the sheet. So I've kind of just been writing really short little, basically just describing the image and what I did, and then and posting it. I was writing. It's like at some point I was writing articles over 1,000 words, but yeah, it's. I'm like you.
it's a different discipline, I think.
It's very different, yeah. And if I don't want to do it, my brain just well, I can't. With images, I can kind of grease my brain into working and doing it. With writing, no, it's completely impossible. if I'm just not in the mood.
I think when I work with some copywriters at work, you just pick up on the fact that we think completely differently.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever met somebody who feels comfortable doing both.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I can write okay copy to go with the images to maybe inspire people a little bit, and just to press that like button by not actually asking them to press like, by just writing. Usually something like emotional connects with them, or something funny connects with them. So it's either connecting with them emotionally or funny, you can usually get more likes and comments and stuff. But again, sometimes I'm just not in the mood to think about writing that kind of thing underneath an image, so I'll just write something really short. But you can tell the difference. So copy does definitely, I think, inspire people to share or like or comment.
I think they definitely go hand in hand, and
yeah.
I think that's probably the difficult thing for creatives, and probably the difficult thing for writers, that we need one another equally.
Yeah, no, but I over the kind of past couple of years, I've kind of developed like respect for the copy side of things.
Yeah, definitely. I think when we work on pictures and stuff at work, and even sort of kind of concepts, they work so hand in hand, and somebody will give you a line and it works perfectly, or you give them a visual and these sparklers and
and that's the good thing about, I think, working as a team. You get to bounce off each other. Whereas freelance can sometimes be quite an isolated experience a lot of the time.
yeah.
But yeah, but then also you get the other side of it, where you work with a team and it's not a great team to work with. So then there's just lots of like backwards and forwards and debate about this and that, and then sometimes that's not as good either.
Yeah, sometimes it can be sort of too many cooks type situation.
Yeah, which you get a lot with commercial work. Like I like doing commercial work when it's a good team. But yeah, if it's one where there's too many chefs, it just ends up not being anything like it. It's kind of like Hollywood movies, when the execs just all want to just come out with these ridiculous things what they want to do with movie, and then the movie just ends up a mess. It's the same thing with like commercial work sometimes.
The idea is there and it gets watered down, adapted, and by the end of it, the concept's completely different to what the original plan was.
Yeah. A lot of commercial work. I sometimes not a lot of it goes in my portfolio because it just ends up being not the quality of work I would put out.
Yeah. So we're going to go into a bit of a Q&A session. So we're sort of asking all the speakers the same 5 questions based all around the 5 themes of York Design Week.
Yeah.
So the overarching concept of York Design Week is we're encouraging people to be an activist. So the idea of anyone can be an activist. You can turn your paved garden into a green space for nature. It can be anything. How do you see yourself as an activist?
I would, I mean, I guess mine would be on social media, I guess. Just kind of, I quite like trying to inspire people about art. So just making sure that the younger people kind of know that they can create the life they want by using art. I probably maybe with my son as well. I do it a little bit through my son, just kind of drilling those ideas into his head. Not in an aggressive way, but just kind of every now and again when we talk about stuff, I'll just put those ideas in his head that is anything that he wants to be, he can be. And then I guess on the blogs as well, I'm a lot of the blogs, it's very technical. Like they're all bothered about f-stops and what cameras he's got, and has this guy got a bigger lens? Where when I write it, I kind of make fun of that stuff because I don't really like that kind of look on stuff. I go more into art and how art inspires, and it kind of creates different ways of thinking. And just if the world didn't have creativity in it, it would be, I mean, there probably wouldn't be much of a world, because everything, even that, like that chair you're sat on, it came from someone's creativity. The window, what opens behind you, came from someone's creativity. So without creativity, I don't even know what the world will look like.
I love the idea that you sort of bring everything sort of into your daily life too, like the Halloween photos you do each year with your son.
Oh yeah, we do that every year. Yeah.
Like that idea of like merging those two worlds, like they don't have to be too separate.
No, yeah, I mean, yeah, I think everyone is happier when they're being creative. I know I am. My son is. Like everyone, like even people what work 9-to-5 jobs, when they do something creative, like either at work or even when they get back home, they're always a lot happier. Like even if it's just someone who goes to work and then comes home and starts like maybe even cooking certain meals or things like that, then it just makes them a lot happier because they're being creative. It doesn't have to be art. It doesn't have to be painting or drawing or photography. Just like icing a cake can be creativity.
I think you hit the nail on the head there. Like creativity isn't picking up a paintbrush and painting.
It's thinking, yeah.
Like my husband, for example, would take apart, I don't know, a PlayStation, put all the little bits out, and then like learn how it works. Like, well, that's being creative.
Yeah. I think I once said this to someone before that, because we were talking about this, and they were saying, "Oh, creativity is just about painting." I said, "No, creativity, that's just one aspect of being creative, but creativity is basically problem solving in a different way or in a new way or a fun way."
Yeah. I think that leads nicely on to the next question, actually. So one of the other themes is play. So play has sort of been shown to release endorphins, improve brain functionality, and stimulate creativity in general. But it's obviously this misconception that play is for children, and when we get much older, we stop playing. How do you still play? I think you've probably covered this really, what you just said, but how do you play as an adult?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of. I'm a bit of a man child, to be fair. I read graphic novels and comic books still. I mean, I've got a son, so I like to, me and my son play games and or maybe do funny photo shoots. Sometimes I like to pretend I go out in the landscape and just go like climbing up things because I just like the kind of idea of being an adventurer. So I just go like drive up to Scotland and have a little explore around. I still watch like movies, the same kind of movies I did when I was younger. So I kind of try and keep that youth about me. I think once you start losing that youth or the kind of the fun aspect, that's when you start becoming really old and kind of miserable. Or your spirit becomes old.
Yeah. So another theme is Rewild. You just sort of talked then about driving to Scotland.
Yeah.
So Rewild is all about sort of reconnecting with nature and the green space around you.
Yeah.
How do you sort of reconnect with that?
Yeah, I basically just I just go and drive somewhere. So sometimes if you looked at my Google Maps, you can't hardly see England because it's full of all these little gold stars. And that's basically just places I think, oh, I want to go there, I want to go here. And then sometimes I'll just take a couple of days off and just drive around. And then I kind of like, yeah, just like exploring the area. So I might drive to one area and then just explore all the different sections. It makes me feel a lot better. I get a feeling when I'm stood like on the coast by Flamborough, or if I'm studying at a lock in Scotland is the feeling what I get inside, which I don't really get from anywhere else. I don't even know how to describe it. I guess people would call it wanderlust, which is a bit of a cheesy word now after Instagram kind of took it, but it's like a primal kind of feeling.
Have you found sort of how you reconnect with Queensland stuff has changed since you moved from Bradford? I mean, I don't think I've actually ever been to Bradford, but from pictures and stuff, I think of it as this very industrial, concrete place.
It was a very, I mean, this is a bit of a generalisation. It's not all like this, but I found it to be quite negative. Like there's a lot of people with a closed mindset where I guess, but I bet they've been brought up that way anyway. It's just, maybe it's a generational thing that's probably where they're going to stay all their lives, and no one seems to have a lot of aspirations. But I mean, I guess that's just from my experience. I mean, maybe there's people there with lots of aspirations and find it really, really positive place, but I didn't really find it that way. When I came to York, York's a very creative place. There's always things, before COVID, there was always things going on. Just like the history is a big thing for me as well. I love the history and the ghost stories. Again, that's another childlike thing. I love ghost stories, and I love scaring people as well. Like my son, I love to tell him ghost stories and take him down the Snickleways and tell him how many people got like murdered down here. All the time there's a monster in a certain building, but he loves all that kind of thing. Yeah.
So another theme we've got is space. So space doesn't necessarily have to be a physical place.
Yeah.
So the idea of people make spaces, which I think has become more relevant, obviously this year with everyone being enclosed in their four walls. Have you found your space has sort of adapted this year?
Yeah, I mean, I was working from the Hiscocks, and now, as you can see, I'm working from the bedroom.
Yeah.
With my little scented candle glowing in the distance. But yeah, so I'm missing other people in my space. So at Hiscocks, there's other people there, like Inkblot, people like that who would sit down at dinner and have a chat and then work together across the table. And it's just nice to have a chat and ask what they're doing and maybe get advice and things like that.
They've had to dig a lot deeper within themselves to sort of find those connections this year.
Yeah, I mean, I was kind of used to it anyway, because before I came to York, this was my life anyway. On the night, kind of stuck in my bedroom on my computer editing or trying to send emails or whatever. But yeah, and then if I feel like this is getting too cramped, then that's when I'll just go out in the landscape and have a little wander around.
So another thing we've got for your design week is trust. So a very broad question. What do you trust in?
I've started to trust in myself a lot more. I think again, like since I bought buying the camera, it's completely changed my life in so many ways. It's unbelievable. It just didn't change my career. It also changed kind of me as a person. Not actually the camera, but what came after the camera.
Yeah.
And building up self-confidence as well. Like I said, Bradford was quite. I wouldn't say it's a city where it kind of builds where you feel very confident, and it builds a lot of confidence in people who live there. So I've kind of been building that confidence up over since I bought the camera, because I bought the camera and it led me to meeting new people. And it's like, I've never met people like this before. And then it would take me to places where I've never been. I was like, this is completely different to what I'm used to. And I think it just started opening different pathways in my brain about because I was probably very close-minded when I was younger and stuck in my ways, living in Bradford and going out and drinking and all that kind of thing. But yeah, I've started to trust in myself and trust in the goals of what I make and the things I want to do as well.
Yeah, nice. So our last question is all based around sharing. So October 10th was Mental Health Awareness Day. Yeah. We've seen a lot of campaigns this year, obviously, about keeping the conversation going, even more relevant this year with of how people are isolating. Have you had to find new ways of sharing, opening up?
I mean, I kind of learned that a few years ago, like in 2016. My granddad, who was probably the biggest influence in my life, it was kind of like my dad's died. And then I did the typical man thing of just kind of compartmentalizing it and not really dealing with it. And for some reason, this time my body was like, nope, you need to, like, you can't do this. And I had loads of weird reactions, like I got spots all down my arms, my throat one day just kind of swelled up. And then I just started having panic attacks, like to the point where I couldn't go to work because I wasn't able to work. So I went to the doctors and I had panic disorder, and they tried putting me on some medication called sertraline, I believe it is. So I tried that for one day, and it just made me so spaced out and I can't even describe how I felt. It felt like I was floating around a little bit without a body. So I just thought, I'm not taking these drugs. So what I did is I just thought, I'm going to do this naturally. So I just Googled how to deal with panic attacks, what supplements to take, how to deal with anxiety, and I just got all this information from Google and then put it into like a structured routine. And then within 6 months, the panic attacks had all completely gone. I felt a lot better, and that kind of led me on a road of self-discovery, as in nutrition, a little bit in self-development and all that kind of thing. So it was bad in the beginning, but I suppose it led to a lot of good stuff.
I think that's really good that you sort of took the initiative to look at it. I think obviously the NHS do amazing work. I think there's often this, the first go-to is to put people on tablets. And
I mean, these tablets, when I looked into them, there was like, it can take years to get off them if you've been on them for like 6 months. So I found that they shouldn't even really be giving people these if that's. And I read forums about people who can't get off them and they feel like crap. So far, I'm not doing this because I felt after that one day, I felt rubbish. So yeah, I think, and it just kind of started with what's the first thing I need to work out, and it was basically how do I stop these panic attacks, because it wasn't just a bit of anxiety; it was to the point where I felt like I was going to have a heart attack, and I was going pale, and I was dizzy, and I couldn't even stand up sometimes.
Yeah.
So I basically just learned this technique of breathing in for 8 seconds, holding it for 6, and breathing out for 7, or something along those lines. And I listened to books on audio books on panic attacks and anxiety. And there was one phrase, I can't actually remember what it is now because my ADHD brain cannot remember certain things, but it was something along the lines of, if you can control your breathing, you can't have a panic attack. It's literally impossible for your body to have a panic attack if you're just breathing nice and slowly.
Wow.
Because the panic attack comes on from you taking, I think it's from breathing really
sharp breaths.
For sharper breaths, and that then does something to the oxygen, which then causes the panic attack. So if you can just keep that slow breath momentum, you won't have one. Yeah.
I think even people talking about these sorts of things just helps one another.
Yeah.
I know, obviously, I emailed you the other day because I'd had a bit of a panic attack, and then obviously we spoke about it, and then these things like the beginning of lockdown, my dad got diagnosed with terminal cancer, and I was really open about it from the off point, and the amount of people who then reach out to you and they've been through the same thing, and suddenly they've got someone to speak to, and everyone, I understand everyone doesn't feel comfortable, to be honest, but you don't have to do it publicly, even if it's to one person.
Yeah, I think as well, when there's a lot of people who are worried, I think, what about people think, but none of my friends who I knew had ever mentioned anything about that. But I've done work with like Pro EDU, which is an education company in photography, and I did a talk about this kind of stuff with them as well. And once I did that, and people saw that I'd experienced it, then all of a sudden loads of other people started saying, "Oh, I've had that." And before that, no one was really saying anything about it. Even some of my own friends from Bradford's kind of mentioned me when I seen them around that. They seen the video and then they said, "Oh yeah, I've experienced something the same," but I just didn't tell anyone.
I think this year has especially sort of made that prominent with so much more about well-being, with everyone sort of being isolated and stuff. I think great to see so many more people coming out and being able to share.
Yeah, I think even if you don't share to a friend, if you can just go and speak to a counsellor, even just for an hour, and I think just at the actual kind of mechanism of just actually saying it out of your own mouth can just make so much stuff go away. It's like being in a relationship and holding everything in. If you just let it out, it's completely fine after that. Yeah.
I think that's a good point to end on, I think. Thank you for joining us.
No worries, it's been fun.
We'll put links on to send people to various websites and Instagram and stuff.
Cool.
Yes, everyone can know where to find you.
Thank you very much.